the recording. All right. This is the appraiser call for September. It is September 25th, 2019, and I apologize. My throat's hurting a little bit, so I'll try to speak up, but I'm kind of talking soft. Um, First, we're halfway through the cycle, and everyone is doing really, really well with their reviews. Koa told me to tell you guys that they really are appreciative of all the information you're providing them. It's really helping them get through the applications quickly. They see all of the comments you're leaving, and they're seeing how you're um, coming to your scores. So thank you for that. And I think most of you are seeing COA's evaluations coming back to you. You can see those through pores as well. Remember that that we decided to change how the payments were being distributed. So you will receive your payment 2 to 3 weeks after a decision's made. So on Monday, we ratified 19 of the applications. And so I will be going, well, I already went through and I put all of your invoices through our system. And so it just needs to be approved by the approver, and then it will be sent out for everyone. If you are missing a payment, just email me, let me know what payment you're missing, how much it was for, and what organization it was for. And I will check into that for you. But I believe everyone should be up to date so far.
So,
Yes?
this is Patty Comments. I have a question about the invoices. In the past, I've batched them for a cycle. With this new way of payment processing, would it be easier if I submitted them individually for each organization to do, or doesn't it make a difference?
You can. I've been kind of just altering them a little bit as they come in. It would be easier if you can separate it, but if you can't, I understand that as well. So whatever works best for you, I'll make it work for me.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Um, Sorry, I lost my. So we're gonna see how that goes for this cycle, and then I'll let you know if that's what we're gonna continue to do with that.
Joe, this is Barb. Quick question about that. Can we assume when we see COA's feedback back to us that that would be the one then that's processed? Because if we submitted more than one in a short proximity, is there a way to tell on the invoice or on the data that comes back to us? There's not a way to tell what organization that payment is linked to, is there?
There's not, but what I can do is I will send all of the appraisers, all of the ones that were ratified on Monday, and that should help you. And then I also requested that we have another COA call on October the 4th, because you guys are pushing them through so much very quickly and very efficiently that we have a lot of people waiting for their results. And honestly, you guys are doing so well that COA is now behind because they're going through all of them. So we have a lot of people who still are waiting for their results. So I asked that COA respectively add an extra meeting so we could ratify the rest of the ones that you guys have sent through. Because I mean, COA is getting slammed with all of the ones that you guys are pushing through. So I will send, for me, my to-do, I'm gonna just write that down really quick so I don't forget. I'm gonna send you guys the ones that were ratified on Monday. And then I will continue to do that every time we have a COA call. I'll send out who was ratified. One of the appraisers did bring up that it's really difficult for you guys to know what payment is for what. And so I'm working with finance to figure out a way, like on the memo, because when I put in all of the information, I type in who you're appraising, what role you were, but for some reason that's not carried over. And so I'm working on trying to like make the notes that I'm putting in a memo for you so you know what payment that's for. But we'll see what happens there. And it's really difficult because a lot of, I mean, all of you have, uh, what do you call it? ACH direct deposit. So it's really challenging, I know. Um,
So, Joe, I have a question about the final reports from COA that
yeah.
appear in course. So there's a bit of a delay if there's a lot of them. So is it appropriate to go into PORS and look in about a week to see the results?
Yeah, just keep checking. They typically are supposed to complete the report after a full decision has been made. Because remember that there's two COA members who will look at the application just like you guys do, and then they send it off to the whole team, and then the whole team looks at it, and if there's some back and forth, then it could take a little bit for that to pop up. Their final, what do you call it? Final evaluation.
Okay.
But if it doesn't pop up at all, let me know and I'll figure out. Because sometimes I just forget to do it as well.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Let's see here. Yeah, if you're having any trouble with the payments, let me know, and I'll work with finance to fix that. There's been a few of you who have voiced some concern about your team members and being flexible and remembering that everyone else has a job or life outside of the appraisal process. So you need to work together on getting a mutual time that works for you guys to do your consensus call. Remember that everyone's time is precious, and so a 3-hour consensus call is probably a little bit overkill, I would say. So just make sure you're trying to be more efficient with your teamwork. Sometimes there are times when you have a troublesome application coming through, and that's fine, but just remember, no one wants to be on the phone for 3 hours hashing out met or not met, or 3 or 4. So just be cautious that you're taking into consideration everyone else's time. And when trying to schedule a consensus call, remember that you're not the only one who has to juggle your schedule. So just be open to the idea of you might have to compromise or find an alternative means to meeting. That's just been not everyone, but it's been more than a handful of people who have expressed concern on that. And you can email me if you have any specific issues or you might need help navigating that with your team. Also, a few of you have commented that you don't feel 100% comfortable putting in your full evaluation in the peer review, and that's fine. Just make sure you email me your concerns, and I will reach out to that appraiser probably like 1 to 2 cycles after, just so there's no hard feelings. I understand that some people just struggle sometimes working together, and that's fine. But just try to make sure that you're resolving that on your own by having those crucial conversations or whatever you need to do. And if you can't resolve it on your own and you just can't work with someone, just email me and I will red flag you so I don't put you with that person again, because I know everyone has different personalities. Um, oh, and just make sure that you are filling out your peer evaluation forms at the end of your appraisals, because those are helping, you know, helping me to see where the needs are or where we're doing really well. Um, because as you know, there'll be some training coming hopefully in 2020, the beginning. And I just want to make sure that we're hitting the right areas. I have a note here that just continue providing the evidence that you guys are providing, because it is making the decision making process really go smoothly for COA. Uh, However, just remember, if by chance I send something back to you and I'm seeking more clarity, I really need you to like step back and think about, okay, I've already provided X, Y, Z. He's asking for more, so telling me like, well, I already provided it here. This is what I said. Um, Obviously, someone's not understanding your thought process, so I need more information. There's been a couple of organizations that have actually had to file for reconsideration, um, and they are able to produce the evidence, and I'm going to have to do a report, and um, then I'm going to send that to COA, and the evidence is there, or they were able to provide it. Um, and you might have missed that. So just make sure, if something's coming back to you, you are thinking about, okay, why is this coming back to me? What did I miss? And just be thoughtful, because you don't want an organization to have to do a reconsideration or get news where maybe they shouldn't have got that news. But COA can only make the decisions they make based on your findings, because remember, they are on that virtual visit. And so if you're getting more information through the virtual visit, it's very important that that's detailed. Does that make sense to everybody? Are there any questions about that? I heard somebody, sorry.
Oh, I just said yes, it makes sense, Joe.
Okay, yeah. You think about it, if it was your organization, um, you know, you wouldn't want to have to go through all of that reconsideration and all of that, because the only reason I'm saying this is the couple of the handful of people who have done reconsideration, the evidence is actually there, and they're finding the evidence. Okay, here's the evidence. How is this missed? And you know, it happens, so it's not the end of the world. But if we could just be more cautious moving forward, that would be great. Remember that in March, we'll no longer score fours. You can still score a four in November. That's acceptable, unless we've told you you can't score a four, because there are some organizations who are attempting the accreditation with distinction criteria, and they will be a special case by case. But in March, you as the appraisers will score one, two, or three. And if you do score all threes and there's nothing left to talk about, that would be your opportunity to have a virtual visit where you just let them amplify what they do, because COA is still looking for you to collect that evidence. Because remember, if you score something a three, but COA doesn't agree with you on the evidence that you've collected, that it's a three, having that virtual visit where they amplify may be that deciding factor of, okay, this is actually still a three. So just think about that when you're going into your virtual visits in March, because what happens is the organization once they get accreditation with no progress reports, just accreditation, then COA will look at that extra document where they will be considered for accreditation with distinction. Um, it reminds me, I think we had 4 organizations on Monday that had accreditation with distinction. So I thought that was very positive, seeing people really improve. We had 19 people go through. I think 4 of them had accreditation with distinction, and only 3 of them had accreditation with progress reports. The rest of them were just accredited. So the applicants are doing a lot better, and I think you guys are providing a lot of evidence as well. So make sure I covered all of this. The expedited reviews, if you are doing an expedited review, the deadline for them to submit is October the 1st. We've only had 1 organization submit, and the appraisers have been notified of that. And so it's really not your expediting it, like turning it around in a week. It's kind of, they're out of cycle, and the quicker we can get it done, the better. But don't feel like you have to turn that around in like 48 hours. It's still going to be a thorough appraisal. It's just outside of the cycle. If you're interested in doing expedited, there is the doodle poll. Just fill your name in, and I'm taking people off that list if they fill their name in, and I'm just putting you in a list of people who will do expedited. And then for November, I have the assignments made, and you've seen them. There's been a few changes just by some of the appraisers were not approved, and so I just had to change some people around. But a few of you, well, a handful of you, didn't have any availability in pours, and it just said unknown. So I did send you an email this time again, letting you know that you had 0, and if you wanted something, I could try to squeeze you in. But in March, if it's 0, I'm just gonna assume that you don't want an assignment. So make sure that you are getting in, and it is telling you that you have done your availability and your conflict of interest. But I did reach out to all of you who I didn't hear from or who I didn't have an availability, and I did try to fit you in. But it was, I was trying to get it completed, and I was waiting on your guys' reply. And then someone asked if they could take a cycle off, and you're allowed to have you can do 0. That's totally fine. Everyone has their own lives, and so if you need a cycle off, that's fine. If you need a couple off, let me know. I don't have any problem with that, and I'm sure someone will pick it up for us. But thank you for everyone who does have availability. I will probably be starting training for new appraisers in November. So if you know of anybody who would be a good candidate, I did open the application up again online, and we will probably start November 1st when the new cycle starts. And I'm going to kind of walk them through a cycle this time just so they can see what really happens. And then they'll be with you guys in March as a observer, a candidate, whatever, and then they'll be by themselves in July, hopefully. Everyone who was in the training is off observation, except one person who wasn't able to fully finish a cycle, 2 cycles. So one person is still going to be observing, but just let them, contribute as much as they can. And remember, as someone as a team leader, if you're letting someone observe, remember that they are to pretty much be observing. They should not be taking over the call or speaking a lot. They're there to listen. So as a team lead, just make sure that you're ensuring that they know what their role is. There was a few complaints from appraisers and applicants where they felt maybe the observer was maybe out of line. So just make sure that we're keeping that under control when we're going into an appraisal, that the team candidate knows what their role is. All right, so that's really all I have. That's a lot, actually, but that's all I have. Is there any questions? And then I have a little quiz that we're going to take, and then we can dialogue about the quiz. As a team member, we don't see COA reviews, so how do I know when the review has been completed? So someone says that as a team member that you don't see COA reviews. So how would you know when the review has been completed? You could reach out to your team lead, or your team lead could be proactive and let you know that the review has been completed. But it's not fully completed until it's ratified. And I'll ensure that on those Mondays when we have COA calls that I send you out the ratified list. All right. And the last thing I wanted to mention is I did pretty much make it a possibility for us to have an appraiser workshop. It would be at Silver Spring. It would be April 15th. The workshop would be no charge, but we couldn't pay for travel and lodging, so that would be on you if you want to come. But I'm working on possibly, if you have a provider or approver unit, of maybe decreasing your cost to one of those, if you want to stay with stay and go to one of those. The new workshop schedule would be in April. We would have the appraiser workshop, the new applicant workshop, and then the provider workshop. And then we're only going to have one approver workshop, and that'll be in August. And so in August, we would have the new applicant, the provider, and the approver workshop. All right, so I am going to...
Joe, could you repeat the dates, please, for the April workshop?
April workshop is April 15th.
Thank you.
Yep. And it will be here in Silver Spring. All right. So I'm going to do like a little poll. It's a little quiz thing. And I'm going to start it. And it should pop up unless you're on the phone. And then you can just listen and dialogue with us. But I'm going to go ahead and launch it. It should launch. And then you can just fill it out. You have to fill out the whole quiz to submit it. You can't miss any of the questions. We found that out yesterday. Some people it just didn't even pop up for. So if you're not seeing something, you might have a pop-up blocker on your browser. But I'll give you guys a few minutes to look at that. And if you have any questions, you can ask as well.
Hey, Joe, does this include the new criteria that was just shared with us?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So the new criteria was shared last month, I believe, with you guys. All right, I've had one person submit, so okay, we got two. It looks like I got 32 people in, so I'll wait till we get up into at least like 20 before we start talking.
This is Sandra. So how do you know you've submitted it? I've hit the button submit 4 times and
And
it
then,
doesn't do anything.
okay, just go back and make sure that you answered all the questions. Someone had that problem yesterday and they missed a question. They looked and they saw that they didn't fill in one of the questions.
I did not go down the page. Sorry.
Yep, that's okay. Yeah, I figured out yesterday how to do quizzes. I meant to just do them one by one. One by one, and it turned into a quiz. But I think this is, just as good. And then as you're thinking as well, if you have an idea for topics that could be covered in one of the in the appraiser workshop, let me know that as well. I'd be interested to know in what you guys want to go over. All right.
No, it kept saying my internet connection was unstable and kept blanking out. I don't know if it's submitted or not.
Is it still there? Is it gone?
It's gone now, but
Okay.
I did it about 4 times, so.
Okay. I have 20 people submitted, so maybe it did. Maybe it did.
May not have taken the right answers, so I hope I'm not going to be held accountable.
Oh no, I can't see who answered what. I can't see who answered what at all. All right, I have 23. We're at 4 minutes, so I'll go up until 5 minutes. So you have about 40 seconds left, and then I'm going to end the polling, and then I'll share the results with you guys. All right, 5 more seconds. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end the polling, and I'm going to share results. It should pop back up on your screen with the results now. Let's go over this quickly. So number 1, contact hours may be rounded to the nearest quarter. For example, 2.76 will be rounded to 2.75. Is this true or false? And most of you said true. One person said false. It is true. This is the language that we are now using. It's congruent with CME, APCE, all of those other accrediting bodies. So you may round to the nearest quarter. The issues that some people were concerned about were the boards of nursing giving some issues, or certification bodies giving issues. But remember that you're the NPRL, you're the provider unit. That's what I told everyone, that most boards or certificating bodies aren't going to ask to see the actual application. They're going to ask to see proof of the contact hour. So just think about that. And I need to shut off my my Teams because they're having a magnet meeting and my Teams is going crazy. Okay, there we go. I'll look at the question box in a minute as well. So everyone got that. That's good. And just remember, we may see some applicants come through who are off on this. And if that happens, just reach out to us because there was some incorrect language given. And so there may be a few people who took that language and ran with it. Let's see. I can't shut off Teams. It will not shut off. I'm sorry. I'm going to sign out. There we go. Okay. The learning community can be accessed with a single sign-on. I can use my ANA sign-on to get into the learning community. 8 of you said true. 15 of you said false. For those 8 of you who said true, it is actually false. And I can't tell you how many times a day I get people who email me and say, I've been locked out of the learning community. I don't know how many times I've had to just send back the sign-in sheet. Remember that it is a generic login for all of our learning communities. It's just we thought about going to a single sign-on, but a majority of us are unable to master that generic sign-on. So imagine the headache we would get if we had a single sign-on. That's all we would be doing is changing everyone's password. So it is a generic sign-on, and I can send that sheet again if you guys need it. Okay. How many education design criteria are in the ANCC manual? A majority of you said 7, and that's correct. So their education design process, there's 7 criteria. Remember, we did change the order on the new revisions, but there's still 7. I don't know where 10 and 5 came from, but just make sure that you know that there's 7 education design criteria. And it might have just been someone accidentally clicked that on accident. Which outcome would be the best outcome to give to a learner? And 83% of you chose the correct outcome. And it's meaningful, it's measurable. The learner knows what they need to do to successfully complete the course. And by the end of this course, the learner will have increased knowledge by passing a post-test related to hypertension side effects with 80% or higher. The learner will identify the top 5 side effects of an antihypertensive medication. That's an objective, and the learner will pass post-test of 90% related to hypertension side effects. It doesn't really tell you when they will do it. It leaves out that, by the end of the course. So that was kind of a trick there for you. All right, number 5. An activity has 170 minutes of education. Using the new rounding rule for contact hours, please choose the best answer for correct contact hours. And 9 of you said 2.75, 5 of you said 2.8, 3 of you said, or 7 of you said 3.0, 1 person said none, and 1 person said 2.5. So if you do 170 divided by 60, that gives you 2.83. And so if you round to the nearest quarter, you would go to 2.75. Are there any questions on that? Because we do have a majority of you who did not choose the correct answer.
Hey, Joe, this is Kim. I guess most of us probably rounded up because at our last Zoom meeting, there was the option to round up, even though rounding down was the closest quarter hour. So that caused a lot of confusion.
Well, yes. So, but that was the incorrect information.
Okay.
So that's why I told you guys about that last time, and I listened to it and I could have been more clear. But you were given that information because you may have an organization or two who does round up, because they were given that information that you must round up to the nearest quarter. Um, and so it was just a mess all around. That's all I can tell you. And so we finally have the correct language. It's out there, but as you know, once you put something out there, people stick to it and they'll say, I remember reading. So we just need to be
Okay.
cautious as appraisers. But the correct language is number 1. So if you go up to number 1, it's contact hours may, there's that word may again, may be rounded to the nearest quarter. So it doesn't say up, it doesn't say down, it just says to the nearest quarter. And that's what CME has on their website, and APCE has on their website as well.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. But yes, I understand why it's confusing because I did tell you that last time, but I was trying to let you know that we may see some people come through with that who round up to the nearest quarter, because it did say must round up. So it is changed now. And so if they don't round, then they don't round, because the language says may round. It doesn't say must. Okay?
And is it only down?
No, it just says round to the nearest quarter. There's no up, there's no down, or anything. And there's the word may be rounded to the nearest quarter.
Okay.
And the nearest quarter at 2.83 would go to 2.75.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. All right, and then an appraisal workshop is in the pipeline. Who would attend? Have 10 of you said yes, 12 of you said no. I'm sorry, 12 of you said maybe, 1 of you said no. Working with Monica on trying to maybe make it a virtual as well. So if someone can, it's like some of you come. It's just sometimes having a workshop like this is just not beneficial virtually, but we'll see what we can do. We do have the capability to do a little virtual stuff. So, a lot of you really wanted the workshop, and so I advocated, and I was able to get it on the books. So we will have it, as long as, most of you, a majority of you do sign up. And it will be here in Silver Spring. There will be no cost for the workshop. All right, let me read the questions really quick over in the chat box. Consideration among different State Board of Nursing requirements. Amanda, I don't, what are you asking?
Oh, you were asking for ideas of things to discuss.
Oh,
and I think,
perfect.
I in the moment, I just wrote that.
Perfect. So maybe send that in an email too, just so I don't miss it. Okay. Carol likes this format. All right, Carol, thank you. Yeah, I'm going to continue using all of the new little bells and whistles that we have. That I will send you the sign in again. Rosemary, so rounding is rounding required. I'm not going to answer that, but if you read, because I don't want to get in any trouble here, but if you read the language, it says contact hours may be rounded to the nearest quarter. I hope that helps you. Cami, what polling software are you using? Can you send this to us with the correct answers?
There's sort of 2 different questions. Number 1, I want the technical information on the software. It's really neat and nifty. And then on the second thing is the actual questions that you use, like particularly like the rounding one and the rationale. That's like, can you send that to us too so we can?
Yeah, the rounding I stole from you. That was your question that you sent me.
There you go.
Yeah. So that was the only reason. And then the rationale is 2.83 is the nearest is 2.75. The software though is just Zoom. but we have the enterprise, so I think that we have the top notch, and the software allows me to do polling, but you have to turn it on. And I think the free version does have so many polling questions that you can use, but you have to be able to turn it on. And so I went and I watched a YouTube video on how to access all of the bells and whistles, because Zoom allows me to do quizzes, do polling. I can break you guys out into rooms to discuss. There's other little fun things that I can do as well. I just haven't mastered all of them.
Okay.
But I'll maybe look for the video I watched and send that link to you.
All right, awesome.
And then the questions.
That whole survey, if you can just send me the whole survey, that would be great. I can use it to help with my.
Okay.
I can use that with my nurse planners. So that's a great thing that we like to steal as appraisers. We can steal these things for our nurse planners.
Okay. I will. I'll figure out how to send it to you.
Awesome.
Yep. I'll cut and paste
Thank
somehow.
you.
Yep. Carol says if it says May, we can't just. Why can't they just get 2.8? Carol, back to the contact hours may be rounded to the nearest quarter. That's all I'm going to say about that. Does this conflict with joint credit reviews? Does the workshop? No, Mary Lou, it doesn't. There's no conflict. That's why I chose it. It's the actual only day that didn't conflict with anything. There's a lot going on in March, April, May.
Joe?
Yes.
Just a quick comment about Carol Williams' question. I agree with her. If a person attends a program, why shouldn't they get what they attended? Why do they have to drop down so far?
So the criteria says contact hours may be rounded to the nearest quarter. It says they may be rounded to the nearest quarter. So
but they don't have to be.
It says that they may be rounded to the nearest quarter.
Okay. I'm just thinking that people are going to complain. It just seems that they're, especially if they're in a full day program, and this happens every hour or every 2 hours.
Yeah, and in the majority of it, though, most of the time, people are always going to round. If they're going to round, they're going to round up. The previous rationale was you always had to round down if you were going to round it all. But at the end of the day, I don't think anyone's going to miss that 0.05 or whatever it is.
Well, I just think they're going to ask, though.
And what? What'd you say?
They're probably going to ask. They know that we're sitting there for 2 hours and 10 minutes.
They may or they may not. But at the end of the day, most people want that solid 2.75 because now that person has to go out and get 0.4 but I mean it's really at the end of the day it's all about the education. It's not about the contact hours. And so just read that contact hours may be rounded to the nearest quarter. If they don't, it says may, it doesn't say have to. So it did the first version did say you must round up, but this one says contact hours may be rounded to the nearest quarter. I know that CME does round all of theirs. I think we're the only certifying body that has weird 2.83s.
I think it's going to be hard to do reviews.
I don't think it would. And I thought about this because because I've been attacked for the last month and a half about it.
I'm not attacking you, Joe.
No, I know, but I don't think it really is. It's just the NPRL or the nurse planner we're giving them, a little bit more autonomy on putting the contact hours there. And we shouldn't get caught up on the time, especially if someone put 2.8 and it should be 2.75. It's not about that. And if you think about it, if someone comes to a conference, they're going to leave and they're going to think about the conference for at least a half hour on the way home. So it's not like, we're back in the old days where it was, oh, you must be here for 3 hours. It's about the learning, I think.
Yeah.
So I've been thinking about that a lot. It's not about the contact hours anymore.
But I'm just worried that a reviewer is going to look at an applicant and say they're wrong.
Yeah, I would tell your reviewers to be open-minded,
Yeah.
and come to you if they have any rationale. Now, the thing is, what I would be concerned about is if you saw someone had 2 hours of content and they were trying to give someone 5 hours of CE.
Oh, well, yeah.
That's when you would pull. That's when you would pull like, oh, okay, well, you can't do that. But if someone should be getting 2.8 and they give 2.75 or they give 3, just make a note of it. No one died at the end of the day, and we'll just make a note and then let them know, like, you may round to the nearest quarter. In this case, 2.83, the nearest quarter is 2.75. And then they'll be like, oh, okay. And then you would just move on. But I do understand people are afraid of it. But I think we're putting too much emphasis on contact hours at this point. I think we should just focus on the CE, the content, and then worry about the contact hours. And if there's a big issue, at the end of the day, you have as well, you're an approver unit, so you have the autonomy to really just do what you need to do. But
and I do agree with you about the content, for sure.
yeah, and I think, they're gonna learn a little bit more as they drive home. So, if there's the small discrepancy, I wouldn't stress about it. I would just be like, okay, no, because we're gonna have to do that too as appraisers. We have 2 questions that say, was the contact hour calculated correctly? And if you think about it, all we're asking for is a rationale that shows us how they did it. And if you're using the Mergener formula, that is so subjective as it is, because you can put in all of those words and then you can choose a 5 or you can choose a 1. And so it's just like, I get that gives us, a more solid understanding of how many hours should be awarded, but it's not an exact science. Contact hour calculation is not an exact science. I understand that it used to be.
That's good. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, like 60 hours. 60 hours was 1 hour, but I was actually at the June, what you call it, Joint Accreditation Summit, and there's still a lot of people who just focus on the hours and not the content. So I think it's something we need to do as a profession, is like, it's all about the content. And just be careful that, someone's not trying to like steal 5 hours. Okay. So Chris, why isn't 3.0 correct? I just answered that. So hopefully you got that. Kim, I envision people giving the actual hour instead of rounding. Where did you go? You just disappeared on me. Oh, rounding down, but we'll round up. Yeah, probably. That's probably right, Kim. Mary, all we have to do is ask them for their rationale and record it. Correct. Chris, I got it now. Okay, Chris, you got it now. When does the May round go into effect for the applicants? The program being submitted have been developed. So the new criteria goes into effect in January. It can be utilized starting August, the end of August. From the Math Geek and former faculty member with students who argue every single hundredth of a point path perspective to round to the nearest quarter, a 8.3 round to 2.75. If rounding to the nearest 2.5, anything between 2.75. I don't know what you're talking about, Cami. Sorry. Yeah, anyone can read her comment. She's talking about math. I don't do math. If you want to talk about that for everyone, you can. Too much math is involved. And then Chris says, I think if we want people to focus on the education and move beyond hours and conflict of interest, then we have to ask questions that focus on education. We have to help people shift their mindset. Yeah, well, we do, Chris. We have to help people shift their mindset, but we have to shift ours first. And as evidence of my last month, we do not want to shift our mindset on anything. We are holding on to our old ways and beating me with it. And so I think we need to just shift our own mindsets first, because if you were only in my shoes last month, you would understand. But we have to just think about, it's about content, it's about the learner, it's about the outcome, and essentially at the end of the day, it's about how are we improving patient outcomes. And so uh, I don't know. Okay, Rosemary said that she understood Cammie's dialogue. So, Rosemary, Cammie, if you want to talk about your dialogue and help other people understand it, because I'm not going to be able to.
It's just, it's,
Yes.
all I can say is it's like taking a quarter and splitting it in half.
Yes.
So it's a dime, 2 dimes and a nickel.
I see. Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay.
So if
you would just
if you want somebody to give you the change for a quarter, everybody gets a dime, and then you got the nickel, and you got 5 pennies. You can't split that last penny, but you're trying to round up or round down, and that's that's basically what you're trying to get to.
Exactly. Yes.
So if somebody has 83 cents, you either want, either they're going to get $1 or they're going to get 75 cents. So which are they closest to? Are they closest to $1 or closest to 75 cents?
There you go. And at the end of the day, it's just try to do your best. It's really,
at the end of the day, is there really a difference between 75 cents and $1 when it comes to CE?
No, it's really not. It's not, but some people believe it is, and I understand. It does add up, but like I said, when does the learning stop? Does the learning stop just because they got up out of their seat? And if you're going to be that particular, are you going to take away contact hours if they go to the bathroom? I think we've had these discussions before. Are we going to take away contact hours if they're texting? Probably not. So I get that, some people are passionate about this, but like Chris said, if we're gonna get the focus on education, then we need to change their mind. And if we're gonna change their mind, we have to change our mind. So I think that we're all on the same page now. Just know that, there's gonna be some areas of confusion on the appraisals because this was, maybe not put out the best way it could have been. It was put out the best way it could, but there was like one mistake, and so whatever. Anyway, there's always room for improvement. So remember too that we may have to educate COA. So if you find something and you would just write the rationale where, well, due to the change in the revision in criteria, because we really didn't change, we just revised it. X, Y, and Z would be okay. So, all right, good discussions. Are there any questions on anything? Please email me if you're interested in helping to plan appraiser workshop, or if you have ideas an appraiser workshop. Email me if you have any concerns about your teammates. I will address it with them as it comes up. We're all learning and growing, so just remember that no one wants to wake up and be awful. So just maybe give them that peer support they might need, and let them know, like, oh, well, to do better, you might be able to do X, Y, and Z. So try to handle it yourself. If you can't, then reach out to me. But everyone is doing a really good job, and I can't express to you how awesome this cycle has been. It's just going really, really well. I don't know that we've ever had 19 ratified in one vote, and all of them just being accredited. That was amazing. The one that was provisional, the appraisers really had to struggle through that with the applicant, and they were able to get the applicant to provisional at least, and they provided excellent documentation, so that was really, really good. All right, so I asked you if you had any questions, and then I kept talking. All right, so any questions? All right. And most of you like the quiz. I will be doing more quizzes now that I know how to do the quizzes. Is anyone going to Magnet? All right, well, I'll see you at Magnet if you're at Magnet. If you have anyone who's interested in being an appraiser, send them to the website. Susan, for designation. Susan, you're going? I thought you said you weren't going. Oh, Susan's going. I'll see you there, Susan. Mary Lou, I'll see you there. All right. I'm going to go hop on the Magnet call now. So if you need anything, email me. I'll have the recording up, and I'll send some documentation out to you, okay? All right. Bye, guys.
Thank you.